I know this is probably like the 1000th video on Sonic 1, but you know what? We're gonna make it 1001! You'd think I already would have covered Sonic by this point, but better late than never, I guess. Whether for better or worse, Sonic the Hedgehog is forever a topic of discussion, as people always have something to say about the guy. But if we're gonna start covering this franchise, I think it's best to start with the classic series, the games that made him an icon to begin with. And I got a lot to be covering with that, but first let's start off with the original Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Genesis. Or Megadrive, region dependent. Now, I have a feeling most people watching this, especially Sonic fans, are familiar with the development history, but in case if you aren't, when Sega was starting out in the console market, they were struggling to reach the same heights as Nintendo's NES. And with the gap further widening with the upcoming Super Nintendo, Sega needed something that would be able to rival Mario, and their first attempt with a mascot, Alex Kidd, just wasn't cutting it. So Naoto Oshima created designs for a few characters, and ended up with a hedgehog. Then he approached Yuji Naka to help program a game as a platformer. But to make it different from their competition, they thought about how satisfying it was to speed through Super Mario Bros. Levels as fast as possible, and wanted to incorporate that feeling into their platformer. And in 1991, Sonic the Hedgehog was unleashed onto the world, and the Genesis was now seen as proper competition to Nintendo, kickstarting what many still see as the biggest console rivalry ever in gaming. Now for this review, I'll be looking at the Genesis original. Well, I'll be playing the games off of the Genesis HD collection on Steam because there's a lot of ports of this game, most of which are just the original release, but there are a few more special versions that are worth mentioning. Sonic Jam on the Saturn and the 3DS Classics port have the Spin Dash from Sonic 2, the Sega Ages version on Switch, which add in the Drop Dash from Sonic Mania, and probably the most important one, the iOS and Android versions. Now originally these were just emulated versions of Sonic 1 and 2 found on the App Store, but Christian Whitehead and Simon Tonley, remember these names for later, went and rebuilt the entire game from scratch, so now it has widescreen, the Spin Dash from Sonic 2, Super Sonic is now in the game, and you can play as Tails and Knuckles as well. So if you don't mind playing on mobile, this is the ideal way to play the game. I just wish these got ported to Steam or something because I would buy these again in a heartbeat. Oh yeah, there's one other version as well. The Game Boy Advance port, more commonly referred to as Sonic Genesis. And oh boy did this port get messed up. Sure, you got the Spin Dash and a level select, but you also have screen crunch, poor frame rates, wonky physics, missing sound effects, lower sound quality across the board. This might be in contention for one of the worst games in the entire franchise, which is saying a lot. I did an entire stream of this version a while ago, and it did not end well.
Actually,
every second I live is agony.
I could seriously make an entire video on just this port. It's yikes. But alright, enough with the different versions of the game. Let's get into this. Sonic 1's story is about as simple as you can get. Dr. Eggman, or Robotnik region depending, is after woodland creatures to transform into robots for his army and seeks to power up the 6 Chaos Emeralds for his plans. Sonic goes to stop the Mad Doctor, get all the emeralds, and save the day. All manual stuff that's never really shown in the game, you know the drill, let's get a move on. So Sonic 1 for an early Genesis title, I think has managed to age pretty well. The sprite quality still looks great and everything pops out in the right way. The only thing that I'd say hasn't really aged that well are the special stages, mainly because they can be a visual overload, and it feels like too much is going on, especially with the screen size as it can feel too close for these in particular. Sonic was also one of the first video game characters to have a lot of personality shown through his gameplay. The title screen alone shows you that this guy isn't gonna be your typical pro tag, and standing around would make him get more annoyed at you, telling you, hey, come on, get a move on. I know that's typical now, but it wasn't common back in the day, and it did make the character stand out from the crowd. Also helping that is the soundtrack. The Genesis was pretty infamous for having a very twangy sound with its music. But the Sonic series always had a way of taking that sound cart and making it work to its advantage. Favorite tracks from this game would be Green Hill, Spring Yard, Starlight, and Final Zone. It's good stuff. So overall, Sonic 1 has managed to hold up pretty well presentation-wise. But how about the gameplay? Sonic acts like your typical platformer with a larger emphasis on speed. The goal is to make it to the end of the stage in one piece, with each zone being broken up into 3 acts. Sonic can collect rings throughout the level, and if he gains 100, he gets an extra life. But if you're in Act 1 or 2 of a stage, if you hold on to 50 by the end, you'll be able to jump into a giant ring and get a chance at a Chaos Emerald, with there being 6 in total. But if you hit one of these glowing bumpers, you'll be ejected from the stage and can't go back, so make your attempt count. But Sonic doesn't have a normal health bar. These rings represent his health. As long as he has one, he'll be fine, but you lose them all if you get hit. But don't worry, you do have a chance to collect a few that fly out of you to regain your footing. There are a few power-ups you can get in these boxes, a shield that will let you take one hit with no ring loss, invincibility, and speed-up cues. As for Sonic's native abilities, he has 2 things he can do. His jump makes him into a ball where he can bounce on enemies, and pressing down will make him turn into a ball that lets him speed down slopes and plow through enemies. You'll race through 6 zones with 3 acts each, and every 3rd act, you'll fight a boss fight until you can take the Doctor down for the first, and certainly not the last time. And that's about it for Sonic the Hedgehog's first outing. So what was the good to be had? So the good in Sonic 1, well, I do want to praise the level design. Stages like Green Hill and Starlight Zone give you a ton of areas where you can let the momentum of the physics engine just let you build up speed, and nailing these sections feels great, and would become a defining trait of the series from here on out. The speed is a reward for playing well, and it factors into the level design. See, stages are sometimes built into, say, a top and bottom route. Top routes usually require a bit more finesse to keep on, but are usually faster and give you more rewards, while the lower routes are normally a lot slower. So staying on the top path is preferred, and leads to a better experience the better you get. But if you get sent to the bottom path, it's not the end of the world, you just need to be a bit more careful, which does create a better feeling each time you replay the game. Plus, the game actively rewards you for going off the beaten path with rings or 1-ups, so it makes exploration worthwhile. It also rewards play, making the Chaos Emeralds only available if you keep 50 rings to the end of the stage, and since you lose all your rings when you're hit, if you want the emeralds, you gotta play smart. Not to mention, I do think the difficulty is pretty on point. I do think anyone can beat it, you got plenty of lives and continues, but even today, it can still put up a fight, which I do find commendable. The special stages being a good example of that. I think they strike a good balance between reflexes and memorization, and getting all 6 in a run makes me feel pretty accomplished, not gonna lie. But there are issues that hold it back from its full potential. Sonic 1 does have a lot of first outing mistakes throughout the game. While I can enjoy the special stages, there are times where it feels like you're making leaps of faith in them, and most of the time it's to a goal sign, which will send you straight out of the special stages with no emerald, and you can only collect them in Act 1 or 2 of a stage, and for whatever reason, you can't get them in any part of Scrap Brain Zone, the final main area of the game. Though collecting them doesn't change the ending too much, so I wouldn't personally sweat it if you aren't able to get all of them. I would say the game has a very weird sense of pacing, because I found for every zone where you get some speedy platforming, there's a zone right after that likes to slow the pace of the game down dramatically. For example, right after Green Hill, you have Marble Zone, which has a lot of times where you need to wait on blocks to pass through, timing puzzles, and a more maze-like level design, where the flow of the game isn't as fun as the zone before it. It also doesn't help that this is only the second zone of the game. Spring Yard is one of the better zones in the game, but some of the level design can feel kind of awkward to traverse through, especially if you're trying to go through the Chaos Emeralds. And after that, you get Labyrinth Zone, which is easily my least favorite part of the game. Yeah, shocking take, I know. The water literally slows the entire level down, you can't avoid it, so many obstacles are just out of sight, meaning you're likely to take pot shots, and you need to worry about not drowning. It's not a fun level. Good luck trying to get the emerald here. And if you use the stage select code, this was originally going to be the second level of the game. Oh my, no. Then you get Starlight, which is probably the best level in the game, not many issues there. And finally Scrap Brain, which is probably the best of the 3 big examples, but it does have a lot of death traps. Other than that, it's actually a pretty good final level. Except for Act 3 where it just becomes Labyrinth again, why? The boss fights are also pretty meh. I'll give it to Spring Yard and Final Zone for at least being a little more creative. but the fights are nothing to write home about. The Labyrinth one is the hardest fight, and it's just a platforming challenge. You never need to hit Eggman once. I think that says a lot. And finally, there's some faults that are just a bit more noticeable when you go back to this game after later titles. Like, sometimes you need to run back and then run forward to build up speed for slopes. Sonic carries a lot of weight with him when he jumps, making tiny platforms problematic, and if you land on spikes after taking a hit, you don't have invincibility frames, so that's a death. Sonic 1 is kind of an interesting one looking back, because I can see all the stuff that does make it a good game, but I can also see all the problems with it at the same time. But overall, it's good. It's just not as good as its brethren. Overall, I think Sonic 1 has mostly held up. It's still a fun platformer with a unique angle to its level design that rewards you for playing better, keeping the replay value up, and can be pretty challenging getting all the Chaos Emeralds. However, there's a lot of first game in the series kind of issues that are present throughout, and the level quality can be all over the place. It's not gonna be everyone's cup of tea, and I can't exactly say it's one of my more favorite games in the series, but the game is only about an hour long, so I'd say give it its fair shake. It's basically on everything, so you won't have to search very hard. And that was Sonic 1. Overall, it was good for its time, but nowadays it is starting to show its age. But Sega had the hit on their hands that they wanted, and when you got success like that, you make a sequel. So next time, we're gonna be looking at Sonic 2. I'll see you then.